Well, hello there. I'm Tracy Resch-Williams, business coach and consultant for Alaska Tracy. Businesses work with me that are seeking calmness, clarity, and prosperity. Using my vision mapping framework, I guide them on their journey to success. On this podcast, you can enjoy hearing inspirational stories of success, as well as business tips and tools that you can actually use. So thanks for joining in. And please remember, click the subscribe button, invite your friends, and leave a comment. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining Alaska Tracy Podcast, episode 52. This episode is sponsored by Visions to Profits Women's Membership Community, and you can find more information on that, alaskatracy.com, and click on Visions to Profits. Our next guest is Brian Yelverton. He is a licensed acupuncturist and traditional Chinese medicine practitioner located here in Anchorage, Alaska. He is nationally certified by the National Certification Commission of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. And I came to know Brian through a series of non-coincidences. I've known him for quite a while and was struggling with some anxiety. I was seeing Weston Hopkins at Interactive Health for a hip and back issue, and I started chatting with Weston about all these symptoms I was having and the doctors that I was seeing, and everybody said that I was fine. And I said, hey, what does acupuncture involve? And he said, you know what, you should chat with Brian. Brian happened to be in the office that day, and we had a wonderful conversation about what actually was coming up in my life, some fears that I was having. And he told me that he actually works with people with a lot of what I was discussing. So I have been seeing Brian for 6-7 weeks now, and acupuncture is really, really helping my anxiety, as well as a lot of practices that he's given me to do, meditation and so much more. So I'm really excited to have him share his story about how he ended up here in Anchorage, Alaska at Interactive Health, and really what he does to help so many people, including myself. I'm truly grateful for him. So let's welcome Brian. Well, hello, Brian.
Hello.
Thank you for joining Alaska Tracy's podcast. I always say Tracy's, Alaska Tracy podcast. And I killed your last name on the intro. It's Brian Yelverton.
Exactly.
Yes, very good. So welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here. And I learned something about you by reading your bio, that you interned in Beijing.
Yeah.
How cool. Yeah, when was that?
Oh, maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago? I did a little stint at a Beijing hospital. It was a lot of fun.
Holy cow. Well, that's really neat. Well, I'm excited to dive in and have you share some of your magic tools and tips. But first, the backstory. How did you come about being an acupuncturist? Is that the correct term? Acupuncturist?
Yeah, that works. Yeah. Acupuncturist, traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. We like to go by many names. It's kind of a long story. My previous career, I was a high steel rigger, and I hung rock and roll shows. And what I would do is...
Wait, you were a what?
I was a high steel rigger. I worked for the International Association of Theatrical Stage Employees, and I hung rock and roll shows. I toured around, and I'd go from arena to arena, and I would climb around up in the steel, and I would hang audio speakers, truss, lights, soundboard, video walls, you name it. If you've been to a huge arena rock show, I was the guy who was responsible for hanging a lot of that stuff up in the sky. And so we'd climb around on little 4-inch wide I-beams at 120 to 180 feet, and we would hang stuff, and we'd use lasers and fun toys like that to and work out all the math for the bridals and hang these arenas. And I've worked for everybody from the Eagles to Justin Bieber and Dave Matthews, and I mean anybody
Oh
you can
my
name during
goodness.
that era. And it was a lot of fun for a lot of years. And what happened was I got injured. I tore my radial brachialis in my elbow here, which is pretty much a golfer elbow. You might have heard it,
Okay.
and a tennis elbow kind of thing. And my doctor said, hey, you need some pain meds, and it's probably going to tear out completely, and you're going to need a surgery. And I said, well, I don't want pain meds because, well, I've worked with a lot of people who have, were using pain meds that weren't working, and then they get addicted to pain meds. And I knew I just couldn't be in that cycle of just putting a Band-Aid over the problem to fix it. So, he had recommended me, talking to the surgeon. And of course, I talked to other people who had similar surgeries, and they said, well, yeah, they have to shorten the muscle by cutting off the end of the tendon, and they have to reattach it. And you're going to need a new surgery every 4 or 5 years with your occupation.
Oh,
Other riggers in my union had have it, and they'd have the surgery like 3 and 4 times. And so I didn't look forward to that, but I was in a lot of pain. And by the time I was starting to look for alternative medicine as health, I could barely pick up a coffee cup, and shearing pain would go from my elbow up to my face. It was so bad. And when you're rigging like that, you're holding on up above yourself to high steel beams, and it's a very dangerous situation. And I just wasn't trusting my arm and my strength anymore, and knew I needed probably to get the surgery, but I thought I'd try some acupuncture just to see if it could help out, at least with the pain. And so I started.
So how did you even know about acupuncture?
I was fascinated with it before. I had studied a lot of Taoism in my undergrad. I've always been, if you'd ask me what my hobbies are, one of them was always philosophy and existentialism. And so I had studied it. I'd known about Asian medicine for a long period of time. And I think even when I was doing my undergrad, I looked into going to do my master's, and I looked at all the chemistry involved, and I said, I don't want anything to do with that. So I kind of changed direction way back then. But anyway, I'm hurt, I'm injured, and I go to an acupuncturist, and I just wanted some pain relief, possibly to get me till I got a surgery. And she started taking away the pain. Every week it got better, and over the course of about 3 weeks, I was like, 90% better. And I since talked to my doctor after that, and he thought it was just unbelievable because he said, your tendon was pretty frayed, pretty released from the bone. That usually doesn't heal. So he was amazed, and I was really amazed. And I just kind of, that stuck in my head, and I started getting into this, like realizing the profession I was in, there wasn't a lot of longevity because the guys just wore out their bodies. I mean, we were physically climbing around like monkeys, lifting up heavy stuff, moving stuff around, and you're working crazy hours. You're doing 20-hour days, setting, loading, and then you get 6 hours off and you do it again. And I just didn't want to be burned out by the time I was 50. I just didn't want to have old, and there was guys in my union that were 55 that looked 75. Tough life for money. And I just was, that lady amazed me with acupuncture. And I was like, if I could do anything in my best life of life, what would I do? And I just kept coming back to that. I want to do what she did. I want to help people without drugs because, in my union, I'd seen a lot of people addicted to drugs. And I want to try to help people, have an alternative to Western pharmacology. And so I just started doing that. I went back to school. I got my master's. I did a lot of training, a lot of hospital rounds. I went to China. I've done, extensive studies. And, I had gone back. It was a second career. And I felt like, can I do this? Can I do school? Am I going to be able to do it? I don't know. And I was just so fascinated. I graduated magna cum laude.
I saw that.
class, and I was in class with, doctors and other people that were, kind of, choosing different careers than the Western pharmaceutical, led paradigm we live in today. And so, but I just did great. I blew everybody away. It was amazing. And now I get to do what I wanted to do that I didn't even know I wanted to do. So it's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Where did you start practicing? It wasn't in
Uh,
Alaska, was it?
No, down in the Midwest. I went
Okay.
to school, a sister school to down in of Ohio State University down in Columbus, Ohio is when I went to school. I was rigging down in the Midwest there, pretty much stationed out of Louisville, Kentucky, and went over to uh, Columbus, Ohio to get my master's. So, yeah.
And then how did you end up in Alaska?
Well, this was the second, now that I'm back here, this was my second run. I moved up in 97
Oh,
after I was supposed to come up on a summer vacation in 97 and stayed for about 5 years. And then my wife's grandmother was getting old and had a big farm in the Midwest. So
wait, where'd you meet your wife?
Oh, in Skagway. So I went up
Oh,
to work for the summer, and just play and take a summer off, and back in '97, and I pulled into a campground, and there was my wife Stacy with her boyfriend, and it was, after a little while, I just convinced her how amazing I was, and she jumped ship,
oh,
and we've been together, yeah, 23 years
oh
now.
my gosh. I moved here in 97, January 1st, 1997.
Wow. Awesome.
Holy cow. So then you both decided to leave Alaska
Yeah.
and
Yep.
you were practicing acupuncture then?
hmm No, well, not till we got down there. I worked for a
Okay.
bunch of years. We've only been back to Alaska now we're on our 6th year. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you came back, did you know where you were going to end up working?
Yeah,
Did you?
so uh I married Stacy, and her sister's a doctor of chiropractic.
Oh,
So when we were talking about coming up here, her sister Leslie was like, you're coming to work for me when you come up here. And I said, well, okay, and I've been here ever since. So yeah,
oh,
it's a family practice. We all work together, we help each other out, we're a good team. Yeah.
it's such a magical place. So I know Leslie from years ago and was seeing Leslie for, I don't even know, maybe a knee injury or something. And she was helping me. And then she went out of town and she said, just see my cousin Weston. And so then I started seeing Weston. And then I said, Leslie, like, I love you. And I love Weston. And she said, just keep seeing him. That's fine. And then so how I met Brian was I just in the last 4 months was thinking, and I shared it a little in the intro to you, I was really thinking I was dying. And I've shared with people before, I have coming up on 22 years sober and think I lead a pretty clean spiritual life. And a couple people had mentioned, boy, those symptoms sound like anxiety. And I said, me? Anxious? No, I'm dying. Like it's my heart, it's my thyroid. And so I went to several doctors and many tests and the Heart Institute and my doctor I went back to after a year, she's MD, and she said, no, it's not anxiety. She said, it's probably your thyroid is dying. And my back was starting to hurt, like everything was starting to hurt and ache. And long story short, I ended up circling back to Weston and he said, well, I would think she would send you to a digestive doctor next. That would be next. And I had just done a tapping session where all this fear came up, which you can hear that podcast with Dawn, who did a tapping session with me, and all this fear came up. And I said, hey, doesn't Brian do acupuncture? And Weston said, he does, and he deals with digestive issues. And you happened to be there that day, and I've known you, Brian, but not really, not really ever sat down and had a conversation with you. And you said, I've worked with people that have had post-traumatic stress disorder. and sexual abuse and bulimia, and I just sat there with my mouth open because a lot of my old issues came up in the tapping session, and I was just blown away. And then he put these, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see, but I'm pointing to my
Clavicle.
clavicle.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, you ran out of the room and immediately put these little needles. I didn't even know what you were doing. I've never done acupuncture. We've only had our dog, Eddie, has had acupuncture, but he put these little needles in my clavicle. And what are these? And they're in there now.
Mm-hmm.
And would you share what these are and what they are helping
Yeah,
me with?
that's even psychologists have grabbed onto that and turned it into one of their tapping points, and it's actually kidney 23. It's below your clavicle. You can kind of grab your clavicles and kind of roll in and on the big bone right there, and then where it hits the sternum, there's these little depressions, and that's actually your second rib. Your first rib's hidden under that clavicle, and you can kind of press on that spot, and it's just it soothes your heart mind and a lot of anxiety and PTSD. And I think everybody's been there when you feel tight inside and you feel like that spring's wound up, and whether you bounced up against somebody that was tight, or you saw something on the news that tightened you up, so wound that spring up. It's just a beautiful spot to kind of press, and I think psychologists grabbed onto that, and that's one of their many tapping spots that they use just to reset some neural pathways and give new energy to the stagnation that's occurring. It's an Asian term we use. Stagnation is when we just have a ball of energy, and it could cause anxiety, or it can cause pain. It can cause many symptomologies from that. Yeah,
It's amazing. And I was not a believer. Like, I mentor quite a few women, and I never believed in anxiety or post-traumatic stress. Like, never. I would be like, whatever, kind of get over it, like whatever. And it's real. It
mm-hmm.
is real. And when I went back to my MD, who's super conservative, and I said, I've, through a series of events, dealt with some fears that have come up, and I've found an acupuncturist. And I could see her through the screen, her whole face just changed. And I was like, what? And she said, I keep doing acupuncture. Like, all of a sudden she was like, we're right now recording this during the fifth month of the pandemic, and so she's been seeing it, and it's appearing, and I'm sure, like you've told me, a lot of it is all the social media and just everyone's wound tight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the world's static right now. It's just it's walking around. Maybe it's just the time. I think we've talked about this before. Like, you believe, like me, that sometimes change is painful, and I see it on a day-to-day basis. Right, people come to me in pain, and first I have to ask them, are you willing to stop doing what's causing the pain, and are you willing to, take new action around that, to walk away from that pain, to let go. And sometimes it's little things we need to do, and sometimes it's big things we need to do. But everybody's amped up right now, Tracy.
What's the percentage, if you could put Weston always does this to me, and I always look at him, what's the percentage of change, but what's the percentage, if you could put a number on it, of people that are able to get relief from acupuncture?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I would have to say,
it's a tough question.
It is. I would say everybody gets something, everybody gets something. I get a lot of silver bullet people that come in, and their doctors are like, I got to have surgery. I don't want surgery. I'm on high levels of opioids, and they're not working anymore. I need something else. I get a lot of people that just want this fix, and they want it now, obviously. Western medicine has us trained that I can take this pill and I'm going to feel better, at least for a short while. And so acupuncture sometimes works like that, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes a course of treatment to get people better. So I think that question you asked is, I think everybody gets something, but it turns out differently. The people that really, wanted a lot of pain relief, they'll get a little pain relief. And then if there's an underlying mechanical issue, if you're bone on bone, we can relieve the pain, but it's going to come back. Eventually you're going to need to do other lifestyle changes, whether that's strengthen the muscles around it, or get a surgery. Acupuncture has its scope and its place in medicine, in Western medicine even. But people come to me with all these different perspectives of what they think it can fix, and I get the autoimmune disorders like Lou Gehrig's disease, and they've read something somewhere and they think it's going to stop it, or even cancer. I have cancer, it's terminal, they've told me I'm dying, can you stop it? And we really, it's humbling that people come to me as this last, miracle worker, right? But I have to be, super honest with what I can do. But even still, if I can't stop the cancer, if I can't, stop the ALS, symptomology, I feel like acupuncture can help slow things down in the respect that really what it does is build up your immune system. And then sure, even the crazy pain people, maybe I can only get a couple layers off, but they get other things out of it too that they didn't expect from acupuncture. Some of it's just peace of mind. Some of it opens up other things. I think a lot of people get, well, here's a cool thing about Asian medicine is that usually any emotional anything, like emotional trauma or even sexual abuse, right? Or something that happened, a war, saw a friend die, a terrible car accident,
A moose attacking you.
a moose attacking you, yes. And you hold on to that and it'll come out sideways in some weird pains later on, even if there wasn't an injury, and people hang on to those things. I think that's why tapping has become pretty popular recently, because it's another way to overcome emotional baggage we carry with us that'll eventually turn into some other type of pathology, possibly even cancer,
Right.
If we get enough emotional stagnation in us, we're going to create sickness, so it's really good to have emotional purges, I like to feel those feelings. I like you to feel those feelings. Like when somebody comes to me with lots of anxiety and fear, I'm like, let's do it, feel it, feel those feelings, but you got to give yourself a little timer. Let's set out of it. Let's be able to step away from that. And so, long story short, I think everyone gets benefit. I get a lot of people that come in that are total naysayers, they were sent to me through the VA and they're just tough macho guys and they don't believe in anything, and this isn't they'll come in the door and say, this isn't going to help me, but my doctor wants me to get off these high doses of synthetic opioids, and he sent me here because I can't, I'm just fighting him, right? The guy wants to be on synthetic opioids, but this is not going to work. I'm just checking a box so my doctor will give me more drugs. And even the naysayers that just don't believe in it will tell me how it doesn't work, tell me all of this. They come back and are like, I've been more alert this week. I've been less fatigued this week. I've been in a little less pain this week. I've been nice to my wife, like things, little things subtly happen. And then if people can stick with it and do a little course of treatment, they notice big changes, and it's really neat to be a part of. It's just a cool, humbling experience to see people's lives change. I've worked with guys, gotten them off high doses of, Oxycontin, the big one that caused all this heroin issues and opioids. But you get them off of that and you get them off the couch and you encourage them to, do some walking, and they lose 70 pounds and their lives are turned around and they can pick up their grandkids again. And I mean, I have seen things that, that I've been able to help out with, where I see Western medicine kind of drops the ball, sometimes, so it's been really neat to be a part of that experience. And that's something I really didn't expect much in school. So, my philosophy is changing as far as, the long answer to your question of what it does. I think it fixes everybody. I mean, I think it doesn't fix them, but it benefits everyone. I think even if you're completely healthy, everything's going good, and your world looks good, the finances are good, and the health's good, and the relationships are good, and the job's good, and everything's good on your circle, right? I still think you should get acupuncture like 4 times a year, seasonally, just for a tune-up. Just let's kick in that autoimmune system. Let's kick in that your homeostatic response, and let's just make sure there aren't any blockages and fix anything before it happens. And I have a lot of people that kind of get in that. So I have a lot of super healthy people that never get sick, and they come to acupuncture because it's good and it feels good. And I think a lot of the world, we get pretty complacent as far as like a good life. A good life's good, right? It's good. But the enemy of a good life, the enemy of the best life is a good life. If life's good enough, I'm not going to change.
Right.
If life's just good enough and everything's just good enough, I'm not going to go for the best. And so it's always good to run into people and encourage them that, hey, life's pretty good, but could it be better? So I get to be like that. Like everyone, I feel like, I get to influence in a positive way, which is super cool. Yeah.
It's just been an amazing experience. I had been seeing Brian for, I think last week was the 4th week, and I kind of had a not so great week, and I was kind of bummed. And I remember coming home after our session last week, and I said to Bobby, maybe it's not working. He just looks at me like he does, like, you're thinking again. And then I said, however, I haven't had to take that. They gave me a non-narcotic, hydroxyzine it's called. He said, I haven't had to take even a half a one for 4 weeks. So maybe something is working. And he just like, he just kind of ignores that. But then when I'm like, oh, I'm feeling anxious or my sternum's cracking, he'll say, have you done your whatever, the latest meditation you've showed me to do? Have you done your energy thing? Or have you? So he's watching it. He sees it happening, And every time I see Brian, you keep giving me these, like, I was meditating like 2 hours a day just to go to sleep, but these are like, they're super intentional meditations. And this last one has just been like amazing things. We have the luxury of a hot tub, and we live in the woods up here. And I, like you said, like, oh, I'm starting to feel better, so maybe I don't need to do it today.
Yeah.
That was Saturday, right?
Good enough.
Right.
Good enough.
And then yesterday I'm like, oh, I'm feeling, I'm feeling it in my sternum. So I'm in the hot tub and it's raining, and I don't bring my phone out there, and I'm noticing all these little green birds flying around, and then I was doing this exercise you said about a lake, and I'm doing this lake meditation, and then I'm just talking to God, and then this whole I'm going to cry. Like probably 20 birds just flew right over my head. And that's the that's the relief. That's living a good life.
Yeah.
And that, for me, that's what I want. And that's why I do these podcasts. It's to bring people like you that can really help people to go for it. Because we only get one shot, and why stay at mediocre? And Brian, I was going to share a lot of the tools and tips that Brian's given me, but if you're in Anchorage, you should go see him. If you're not, you can reach out to you, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So they would find you on Interactive Health,
Mm-hmm.
interactivehealthalaska.com, which I'll put that in the show notes. And you do have a little write-up, you have a bio there, but people could get a hold of you there. You do right? Teleacupuncture?
I do.
You can't.
Well, I'll do telemedicine,
Yeah.
consults and stuff like that. Yeah.
So like kind of tips and tools and
Mm-hmm.
things that people can use to, meditation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the points on the body, the immune. Yeah. Oh, there's so much goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I thank you so much for doing this interview. I know you were hesitant. Last question. How do you define success?
Oh, gosh. So huge. How do I define success? Well, it's not money, right? I made more as a high steel rigger than I did as than I do as an acupuncturist. And for me, success is having purpose and helping people and being loved and loving. I get that. I feel successful when, people like you, Tracy, say, wow, you changed my week last week. And wow, I was in a crappy place and now I'm smiling again, and it's beautiful, that's beautiful. So success is, giving my all every day. And then when I go home, having enough to give it all to my wife and my kids. I want to make sure I have energy for them because they're my most important people, And so I just gauge my day on, how did I show up in the universe? I mean, did I add to it? Was I a giver? Was I a taker? Was I a lover? Was I a hater? Did my fears, take control today? Because I see a lot of people with all of that, right? Like fears and everything like that. And it's like, if I can take that away from them, that's beautiful. But I want to throw it on the ground and leave it. I don't want to pick it up and bring it with me. And so, that's how I judge my success. It's a day-to-day thing. I'm pretty happy most of the time, and I think it's because I get to help people and I have purpose and I have love in my life and I give it freely, like I meet people just today and never seen them before and I immediately connect and they connect with me and there's caring, despite backgrounds or beliefs or whatever, there is a common ground I seem to find with people and I just want to hang on to that. That's success, that's success. So
That's
yeah.
beautiful. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for being on the show. And
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
see, it was fun, right? It was
Oh,
painless.
it was painless. I'll never watch this though, Tracy. I won't be able to.
Your
Do you
wife
ever
will
hear your
listen
voice
to
on the phone and you're like, man, I don't like what I sound like?
Yes, your wife will listen to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you,
Good.
Brian. And thank you, all of you, for listening. Remember, please click the subscribe button, share with your friends, comment, and join me for the next episode of Alaska Tracy Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Until we meet again. Bye-bye.